Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's Jazz. It's the West Ham Irons channel, and this is a special show, a show that I like to do now and again when I feel there's a interesting and quite a good point to be made to you viewers and subscribers. And it's kind of after today's game that I felt this is the right time. Today's game, obviously, earlier on finished West Ham United 2, Newcastle United 2, which I think overall is a good point. It kind of that's 3 games unbeaten now after the defeats from City and Liverpool, and we could have got a win. But I did go into that in my other show. If we had a better striker up front, as an example, and if the referee had performed better, and had sent Bruno Guimaraes off, we could have got a bit more out of the game. But I'll take it. It was a late goal. And Newcastle for me are kind of on our level, as Villa will be next week, and that's where I was saying you really test yourself against teams that are on par with you, really. So anyway, special point, special show. Hopefully going to use a bit of the tactics board in this show as well, which I think you guys like to use and I like to use, really. So discussing, for me, looking at today's game and certainly the last 2-3 weeks and the start of the season, we got two weak points in our team, according to me. That's very kind of obvious to me, maybe some of you. And again, going back to the show, listen, I've got something to say. I'm going to say it. I don't kind of pussyfoot around or anything like that, and I'll just make strong points whether you like it or not. And it's kind of Antonio and Aguerd for me. They are the 2 weak points for us in the team. Everyone else, the rest of the 9, are doing good, are doing okay, and more. These 2, more often than not, are the weak points in our team. If I start off with Aguerd, we signed him last season for around 35 million, Moroccan international, came with a fairly high reputation, and last year certainly he looked really good, especially when the ball's at his feet. Good at distributing the ball, left, right, short passes, long passes. Look really, really skillful. Reminding me of Tony Gale back in the day, comfortable on the ball, like Alvin Martin can play out the back, especially in a 3 centre-backs and a wing-back system. He looks very, very comfortable. Had an injury when he joined, which I know is not easy. He was out for a while, got injured in that Rangers pre-season game, didn't he? And then he's come back towards the end of last season, played for Morocco in those tournaments, and it's kind of, it's been a regular since then. This season certainly slots in alongside Zuma, which is a left foot, right foot combination. Both speak French, like our goalkeeper. But mate, I always like to judge defenders. Obviously, it might sound so obvious saying it, but these days they like to sign goalkeepers who bring it out and distribution with the feet rather than are they really good goalkeeper in terms of saves coming out for crosses. Same with defenders, Pep and Klopp, Arteta even. They're kind of slightly more focused on how comfortable they are on the ball rather than their pure defensive duties, really. And West Ham's the kind of team, we're not going to have the luxury where we're going to dominate possession, especially the way Moyes sets up to play. More often than not, we're not going to have possession, right? So I know kind of Pep's been looking at Aguerd in terms of when we have possession, what skills he has then. But at West Ham, where more often than not, we don't have possession, we have to mark really, really well, solid shape, read the game, intercept and as and when needed, clear the crosses, block tackles, all that kind of thing. Aguerd has been really, really poor. He's been involved in many mistakes now, including, he kind of gave that penalty away against Salah. He got sent off for a silly kind of tackles he done in that game, the game before that. And every time we concede a goal, including today, he just doesn't know how to mark. Imagine I've been told to kind of mark a centre-half. But I do understand that what happens these days, you don't have a strict marker. You don't have a strict striker that you're going to mark throughout the game, which used to happen. Now it seems like the centre-halves are interchanging all the time. Cross goes in, Zuma might be marking Isco or something as an example, then it switched to Aguerd 10 minutes later. So that bit I don't understand. But for me, every time the cross goes in, or it's a kind of a free kick for the opposition or a corner, he's just ball watching. He's not there in the right place. He doesn't intercept. He doesn't block. He's never on the right side. And this is happening every single game. And he's a liability. He's a liability at the back. He can't defend. It's about time Zuma had a word with him. I think Areola has to speak to him. Zuma, especially because he's our captain. And the thing with Zuma is, I think Ward-Prowse is more of a captain than him. Zuma, for me, is perhaps too nice, not vocal enough. Although I'm seeing a bit more of Zuma vocally game by game, because he only took over the captaincy, to be fair, from Rice, which it's not that long ago, is it? 7, 8, 9, 10 games, whatever. But yeah, you need someone to organise the back four, back five more often, like be in line. The way Tony Adams used to with Winterburn, kind of those four, isn't it? Was it Tony Adams, Steve Bold, Nigel Winterburn, and David Seaman and Lee Dixon? God, I know they played a decade together, those guys. There's such an understanding, but I think you need like a George Graham on the training ground. But for me, Aguerd is very concerning me now. I know at Sheffield United he had a okay game, put in a few blocks, interceptions, tackles, but that's Sheffield United. And then I know in Europa, more often than not, he looks okay. But it's the Premiership, Apart from Sheffield United and one or two other really, really weak teams, you're going to get tested. And nearly every single game, mistake after mistake. I mean, I think it was Newcastle's second goal. Yeah, I mean, he got beaten, didn't he, by a striker who scored. Got done for that, and then he nearly scored a hat-trick, the Newcastle striker, didn't he? Nearly scored a hat-trick, left him for dead, left him miles behind, and luckily just touched the post, and otherwise that was a hat-trick. It's embarrassing, and no one's saying anything to him, right? And that's the kind of thing you got to look at. I will put the formations on in a minute, but I just wanted to discuss first of all the points, and then we'll go into the tactics board and the problems we've got in replacing these people at the moment before the January window, or do we wait and see how the season develops? Are they going to improve? Are there things on the training ground that can be improved on? Who's really our defensive coach? But listen, it's blatantly out there. He can't defend. He can't read the game. He's reminding me of Issa Diop. And he came and had an okay first season, and I thought, wow, we got something on our hands here, haven't we? He's going to break into the French first team squad. But after that, the man was just lost. He used to lose concentration. I think he's still doing it, the Fulham fans are saying. Doesn't know how to mark, doesn't know how to position himself. Just look at Zuma, model defender, right in front of you, right next to you. Just learn from him. You don't have to be super speedy. You don't have to be super big. You need to think there the first few steps. Look at John Terry. Wasn't the biggest, wasn't the fastest. It's all in there, and he just ain't got it, mate. He looks graceful and brilliant with the ball at his feet when he's passing left, passing right, 20 yards. He might curl one in for the winger or Antonio. But for me, your bread and butter is your defensive duties, and it ain't happening, mate. And I'm worried that we've spent a good amount of money on him last season, and I would seriously consider keeping an eye on him up to Christmas. And if things don't improve, you have to get him out the door. I'm just aware, if we want to break into the European qualification places and we're up against Newcastle, Brighton, Villa, we've got to be at it. And we don't want to be carrying players. And at the moment, I'll come to Antonio in a minute, we're carrying 2 players. So for me, it's like a 9-man team every game, right? He's there in defence, but what's the point? Every time we score, it's because of him more often than not. I know Alvarez was the fault for the first one, I get it. But after that, he's always got a mistake in him every single game. Just let me know in the comments what you think. I just don't see anything in him. And I'm really, really surprised. I thought, after last season, I thought the guy's going to have a fresh, clean start, have a good pre-season under him. He's well thought of kind of the region he's from and things like that, right? But don't see it, mate. I know he's a threat from set pieces. He has scored already. I get that. Ward-Prowse, more often than not, does find him. But I want him doing all of that stuff at the other end, stopping the goals going in, and it's not happening. Núñez got in between him and Zuma as though they weren't there. That's not clever. That's Núñez being clever, right? If Núñez had the brains and he's standing outside the box, before the cross went in, he just knew where to position himself, where to do his runs. He got the gap between them and scored. Defenders have got to think the same way, right? If I'm standing next to a striker, I've got to be with him. But what's happening is strikers are way ahead of him in terms of thinking. They just leave him for dead. He's just watching, ball watching, right? It's not good enough today. Even Isca, the striker for Newcastle. I mean, wow, what a striker! I'll come to Antonio now, but for me, that's kind of Aguerd's issue. Let me know in the comments what you think. It's a worry for me, right? Antonio, I've been banging on for ages now, and he's 33, and it's a big mistake we didn't buy a striker that was like him as a backup, or certainly would threaten his position. So if Antonio gets injured, he doesn't start. We don't really. It's worse up front. Then we're trying to put Kudus up there. We're trying to put Souček up there. Trying to put Bowen up there. You can't do that. You can't do things like that this early in the season, right? If Antonio gets a serious injury, it's not going to be good for us. And even when he's fit, he's just not mobile enough. He's not quick enough. He's not pacey enough. He's not clever enough. And you just saw the Newcastle striker today. He single-handedly got them to 2 points. And we didn't have nothing up front. Antonio, I'm going to show you on the formation board. How do you carry a player? Every 5 games he'll do all right in one. You don't see him again. It's just a shit show, mate. We got to replace him, and today I didn't see anything from him. He just fell over again a couple of times. Ball doesn't stick to him. He can't really keep it, More often than not, he loses it. Liverpool, he was pretty poor. He missed a cracking chance when Souček set him up. We're playing with 9 people, right? And it's a shame because the rest of the team are gelling together so well, especially Emerson and Kufal, who've totally surprised me. Those guys are doing really, really well, If you look at their total overall ability, their age, they're really, really doing well, right? And Zuma's always reliable. Areola's bit by bit doing okay. The new boys have settled in really well. Bowen is always, more often than not, Mr. Reliable. Paquette is getting better every single game to the level that he's kind of slowly becoming one of the really good, well-known, established players in the Premiership, right? But you got Aguerd at the back. You got Antonio at the front. You're carrying a handicap there for me, and it's costing you. It's going to cost you over the whole season, right? When you look at the table, and hopefully it doesn't happen to us, and we miss out on, say, European place by 5 points, you can see where the points have been lost, and it could be due to 2 players that over the whole season, right, are just not playing well, right? Let me just show you the formation board for me and kind of tell you what I think is going on. So if you look at the board, let me see if you can see it. Yeah, I think you should be able to. So this is what's happening at the moment, including today, which again to me is odd, but somehow we are getting through games more often than not with wins and draws and doing okay. Areola at the back, Zuma, Aguerd at the back, Emerson and Kufal slightly advanced as kind of fullbacks. They're trying to sort of come forward. Alvarez is kind of like the sweeper to me, so he's protecting the back four. He sits quite deep, rarely goes over the halfway line. Prowse's in and around the semicircle there, alongside Paqueta. Paqueta, you see him going everywhere, to be fair, right? So he's there most of the time, but he can be seen here, there, everywhere. But this is the surprise that's happening now. Antonio's meant to be our striker, but more often than not, he's messing about around here. You see him on the halfway line, then you see him here, sometimes you see him there, then he might make a run down there. Very rarely do you see him there. This is where he's meant to be for me. Look at Newcastle striker. Look at Liverpool strikers. You're meant to be here. At worst, just go there and go there. But I want you in and around that area all the time. I don't want you here. So when Bowen gets the ball and he's there, Antonio's there. He's nowhere to be seen. Then you get Souček. Souček is running more into the box as a striker than Antonio. Antonio's there. And then you've got Bowen trying to find Souček. And that's why Souček is finding reasonable bits of success. That is okay. So, Souček's getting, a goal every 2-3 games. But that's not ideal. When you look at the whole season and the teams and the quality you're playing against and all the competitions you're in, you're it's not ideal for me, I don't know. So for me, it's like Bowen gets in the box sometimes and he's down there. Souček's more often than not, he is the main striker. Antonio's messing about. So this is what's happening at the moment. That's why finding Souček is kind of playing a little bit like when he first came. And more than Antonio, he's the central one. He gets in there ahead of Antonio. Antonio rarely gets into the box, and then you got Bowen who also regularly runs down the wing. plays 1-2s with Paqueta, and then Paqueta sometimes sort of goes in on goal. So this is what's happening at the moment. But the key question you guys probably want to know, Kudus, obviously, he's too good to be on the bench, right? It's a stupidity, and everyone around the world knows that. Even especially the Ghana fans, they can't believe it. And I think he's done more than enough to start. But then where do you start in this formation? I mean, he comes from a 4-3-3 system, right, where Alvarez would have been the middle one, and then you would have had players either side, and then Kudus would have been. I mean, if I, but then who are you going to take out? Right, which is tricky because Souček every game is playing well. He runs around all the time, which kind of David Moyes likes, as you know, right? So that's kind of the problem there. Antonio, see, if Souček didn't have this great run, then I would so if I let me substitute Souček a minute just to show you what could happen. So if I put him in on the bench and then I pick Kudus from this kind of app, then at Ajax, he could have been in the middle there with two people really, really close to him. That would work. Or I have seen him kind of play here, right? And we'll just put Antonio up front for now, just to kind of show you guys, right? And then you've got him here next to Alvarez in a 4-3-3. Those are the two formations that he's quite used to. So I think it's not ideal because, again, I could be wrong, but in the ideal scenario, I would replace Antonio with a proper striker, like the Newcastle guy. Even though, listen, with respect, he costs 50-60 million. So, yeah, it's not easy to do. So I'll have a striker like Antonio there who stays there. He doesn't go off wandering, eating ice creams in the corners and doing his shopping, and you don't know where you are when you're counter-attacking, right? And then Kudus would be here, right behind Bowen, and then Ward-Prowse would be down there. Alvarez would be just there. But actually, with Paqueta, trying to think if we can swap Paqueta and Ward-Prowse around or not. Because it's still going to be 4-2-3-1, isn't it? Because you take Souček out. So Alvarez, Kudus is not a defender either. So I think what we're going to have to do is put Ward-Prowse there and Paqueta there, like they are kind of now. And then the front three, it's going to be Kudus, Antonio, Bowen, but I don't know if Kudus is happy there on the left side because he's kind of left-footed but likes to play on the right, a bit like Bowen. And I think Antonio, Kudus and Bowen, they all like to play on this side of the wing, but that's for the manager to check out. But this could work till we find a striker in January where Antonio's kind of in the middle, Kudus and Bowen, and then I think under Moyes they're just going to interchange. I think Antonio's going to spend most of the time there. It's just going to happen, and then more often than not, because they're more mobile and stronger, you're going to find Kudus trying to go up front, and then Bowen as well. I mean that's something that could be tried, where the lineup looks like Antonio's up front, but he really isn't. I think that's kind of one of them. It is like a kind of a 4-2-3-1 in a way, but you kind of got kind of 3 CDMs in there, whereas Paqueta's not really a CDM. It's quite tricky. Or it could look like this, isn't it? Alvarez and Ward-Prowse strictly in the middle, and then Paqueta will play in that gap because he's like a number 10, isn't he? He plays in that hole trying to support Antonio, and then you got Kudus and Bowen either side. I mean, let me know in the chat. That could be the other formation that could work. I think that would work. If you have a really, really good striker who again can run the channels but can also be up front. So like Antonio, you need someone like him who can go down the channels and hold it, but then he's very, very quick, and his natural instinct is to be always in and around the area. Never goes as far as the halfway line or nothing like that. I don't want him doing that. You stay there, and then you help to bring Kudus and Bowen into the game, and Paqueta's in that hole. And what will happen is we're under the cosh, then Alvarez can go back to that sweeper role. Paqueta will go back and help out Ward-Prowse. I mean, again, let me know in the chat. That could work. The other worry is when you look at a squad, another thing that's been shocked. I'm not really having a good week because I was wrong on the Bowen contract. Very happily glad that's gone on. But Cornet, the way Cornet has not developed at West Ham has completely shocked me. I thought we had a player in there who could play up front and 2 up front next to Antonio, play on that left side, could even help out as a wing back. It's just not happening for him. He had that game, didn't he? I think it was a Carabao Cup. Yeah, it wasn't very good, I heard, so it didn't really work out for him there. Mubamu's not really getting a look out. Mavropanos, we still got to keep an eye on him and see how his defensive side is. Everything else is good. He's good physique. He's kind of technically okay on the floor, especially good at set pieces. Danny Ings, he can't play up front by himself, so I think he's got to go in January for me. Benrahma, good impact sub, nothing more than that really. If you go back to the pitch, I mean, yeah, so it looks like, and we done well in the transfer market, but you can clearly see that there is room for improvement. If we're not going to use Benrahma more often than not, then you've got to think about shipping him out. You've got to think about shipping Cornet out. And you got to keep an eye on Aguerd, and yeah, you got to bring a striker in up front, a younger someone like Broja at Chelsea, who can lead the line, hold it up, strong enough to run down the channels, but also be there when Bowen's running down the wing with the ball, or Paqueta wants to find you through the middle, or Prowsey's there. You need something a bit more visible up front, really. So like you said, there's only one or two things we can do, but then I feel bad taking Souček out, so it's really tricky, unless there's one more thing we can do, but I don't know if it's going to work, is if I take Antonio out. Let me just put him in the subs bench, and if I bring Souček back in, and then you'll have Kudos in the middle, Bowen next to him, and Souček will be it'll be like that then, wouldn't it? Don't know how that's going to work unless you put Kudos up there and Souček in the hole. And then kind of, okay, it'll be tricky for the defenders who they're going to pick up, because a lot of these are going to be running in late into the box. So, yeah, it's going to be like what's happened last 2-3 games. Souček is going to be more or less a striker coming in really late into the box, and he'll be supported either side by Kudos and Bowen. Not ideal for me, but that's the other thing I'm thinking of, because I know a lot of you want to see Kudos in the middle. Then what do we do with Souček then? Do we put Paqueta on that side there and put Souček as a CDM, which he doesn't really enjoy? I mean, he likes to go into the box. I mean, would that work? Kudos in the middle, Bowen and Paqueta down there. Again, I've got to be convinced by Kudos as a striker, but he can only play if he's got two next to him, like Haller used to, right? And Skamaka more often than not. You can't play Kudos in a 4-2-3-1 kind of, what's his name, David Moyes system, isolated. You can't do that. So this again is tricky. It's tricky, isn't it? When you haven't got a striker, it's tricky. And I don't think Souček's going to be dropped. So I think, it sounds crazy, but I think Kudos is going to continue to be the sub, certainly while Souček is on this run. I can't see any other thing to do. I mean, I don't think he's going to drop Antonio. He could, but then the whole of the thing is messed up for me. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, let me take Souček off again and bring back Antonio. And then I feel more comfortable like that, I think. Yeah, that could work. Kudos in the middle, Bowen and Antonio either side of him. But either way, you've got to tell Antonio to be more central and stay up there, really, or whether Kudos is happy doing that. That would probably work. Or, yeah, that's the only thing that will work, really. And the more I see Paqueta, the more I can see how lucky we are to have him, because he's a kind of a CDM, but he can also play as a number 10. He roams all over the pitch, very comfortable with the ball at his feet, goes into corners, keeps hold of it, can set things up. So he's kind of amazing. And Alvarez quietly does that sweeper role in front of the back four. Prowsey, you can see what his kind of skill sets are and where his ability lies. It's just front three, perhaps, we've got an issue with Aguerd at the back. I'm not happy with him. Another thing I just thought of, Alvarez has played as a centre-half. So, but he doesn't look that tall to me, so I don't know if you want to try that. Actually, he's about 6'1", isn't he? You could try Alvarez at the back. I mean, let's see what happens then. Then that would mean I'll take Aguerd out, put Souček back in, and then you got Alvarez at the back next to Zuma. And then you got Prowsey there as normal, Souček there as normal. And then Souček's in his role that he loves, which is kind of in the middle, ahead of the CDMs, because he's not really a CDM. He's not really effective, but he's in that hole. He's in that hole, and then I don't mind whichever way Antonio Kudos plays, because if Antonio goes, looking for ice cream in the corner flags like he normally does, I got confidence that Kudos will run in and try to be that main striker alongside Souček. So this could work. Antonio, well, if someone coaches into him, Antonio is still up front, and Kudos and Bowen very close to him, and Souček's in that hole. That could work, because then for me you're eliminating one of the weak performers. But then Alvarez, it's tricky, isn't it, everyone? It's tricky. You could play wing backs with Mavropanos, one of the three at the back, but you're going to lose something from up front. So lots of different things you can try, but you got to get that striker in for me, and then it'll be clear cut. Then Antonio would be replaced. Bowen and Kudos would be next to and just behind the striker, and that this kind of might work. Then I think then it is 4-2-3-1, but it really is. It does mean it works quite well. Keeps him always happy, because in Prowse, Paqueta, Souček, in his mind, he's got 3 defensive players, which he likes, and then the 3 up front can hopefully work in harmony. Because I think Kudos and Bowen are young enough, strong enough, skillful enough to kind of play some parts of the game isolated, which a lot of David Moyes teams do, because they're all defending at the back. But the problem is, Antonio's not strong enough to press with the ball, press without the ball, or certainly hold it up or bring people into play. He just hasn't got it. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So if I just close that down, so what we've been going on for 27 minutes. So you can see the dilemma David Moyes has got, because we didn't quite finish the job off in the transfer window. There's gaps there. Mubama, we've got to find out a bit more about him. I thought physically, I know he's really young and he wants to protect him, but in years to come, I mean, he could be Antonio. I don't know. Antonio's got a new contract. I'll always remember him as a good winger behind the striker, and he's more happy there. And if we get a striker in, he could fulfill one of those roles. Fornals is going to go soon, I think. So lots of things to still improve on and talk about, isn't it? But I think we're nearly there with the other 9. I'm really happy with that. It's just picky Jazz, cherry on the cake, ambitious, want to knock on the top 6 door, compete with them. And I think today, if we had a better centre-half than Aguerd, better striker than Antonio, we would have won today. And you can see when 2 teams are fairly similar, they keep winning because they've got that fucking striker instinct person where he just needs the ball in the right place twice. He's going to put it away. A fit Callum Wilson starting today, then they could have won it, I felt, right? That's kind of what it's like. And at Anfield, the 2-3 chances we messed up, with a striker on our side, we would have got something out the game. That's football. That's fine line. Again, more importantly, listen, put your comments in the chat. Let me know what you think, what ideas you've got, how to put Kudos in, who you're going to take out, what do we do with Souček? Very, very interesting points, isn't it? So keep supporting the channel. Keep subscribing. We're doing really, really well. And I'll do more and more shows coming up. Take care. Have a great evening. Come on, you irons.